Hi, this is Mr. Baker, your 2008 Teacher of Merit, and this is Unit 5.3 Photosynthesis Notes, where we're going to talk about the four factors that affect rates, CAM, and C4 plants. The four factors that can limit the speed of photosynthesis are light intensity, carbon dioxide concentration, temperature, and water. If these aren't at the right levels, your plant's not going to grow as fast as possible. Light intensity. Without enough light, a plant cannot photosynthesize quickly, even if there is plenty of water and carbon dioxide. Obviously, light intensity is going to affect the light-dependent reactions, and all plants have their particular light intensity that they've evolved to work with. For example, if you're a prairie plant, you want intense, bright sunlight for hours and hours a day. If you're a shade plant that evolved under the canopy in a forest, you want to be shaded because you can't handle the light intensity. So you want to maximize whichever environment is best for your plant. The carbon dioxide concentration, it's limited by the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. Even if there is plenty of light, a plant cannot photosynthesize if there isn't enough carbon dioxide. This obviously is going to affect your Calvin cycle because that's where CO2 is one of your reactants. Temperature. If it gets too cold, the rate will decrease, and if it's too hot, it won't work as well either. So it's kind of like the Goldilocks principle, not too hot, not too cold, just right for the plant. And again, plants have evolved for their particular environment. The temperature will affect both the light-dependent and the light-independent Calvin cycle. The amount of water is also there because you need it for the light-dependent reaction. Remember, photosystem 2 splits water to replace the excited electrons that's moved by chlorophyll down the rest of the electron transport chain. So if you don't have enough water, everything comes to a standstill and the plant doesn't grow at all. Droughts are bad. How does CO2 enter the plant? Through the stomata. And that begs the question, because stomatas are on the leaf, and that begs the question, where does water enter the plant? And water only enters the plant through the roots. What are stomata? Stomata are these little football-shaped cells that are pores, and they allow water to exit the plant, CO2 to enter, and they also allow oxygen to exit. If your plant is happy, you're going to have open stomata, which means you've got plenty of water. Carbon dioxide is going to enter, your oxygen is going to exit, and your water vapor is going to exit. Water moving through a plant is called transpiration, and this is what would happen if the plant's happy with normal plant growth. If your stomata are closed, that means you have no water or a drought. And that's going to be your closed stomata. It's going to prevent water evaporation or this transpiration process, which the plant doesn't want to do. You cannot release O2 into the atmosphere, and that's also not a good thing. You cannot enter in carbon dioxide to do the Calvin cycle. So that means the plant growth will come to a standstill and your crops will fail. C3 variants. Plants in extreme climates have alternative photosynthetic pathways to maximize energy conversion because stomata are closed during the day to prevent water loss. What does that mean? Well, they kind of tweak the Calvin cycle to make life better for them in their different environment. When plants fix carbon in a normal Calvin cycle, the new carbon is found in a 3-carbon molecule. Hence, it's called a C3 cycle. All trees are C3. 85 of all plants you can find on our planet are C3 Calvin cycle. But some plants tweak this and use a 4-carbon molecule. Hence, they're called C4 plants. These evolved in hot, dry places. Your examples are sugarcane, corn, crabgrass, and something called amaranth, which apparently grows in Minnesota, because I found a picture from the Minnesota, I believe it was DEQ. They're going to fix CO2 into 4-carbon compounds instead of 3-carbon compounds. And here are the advantages. It evolved in hot, dry environments, and they can outcompete C3 plants there. They photosynthesize faster than C3 plants under high light intensity and high temperatures, which is a good thing for them. The water use is more efficient because this molecule called PEP carboxylase brings in carbon dioxide faster, which means they don't need to keep the stomata open as much. But there's always a trade-off in evolution. And the trade-off is this requires much more energy than C3. So I guess pick your poison, so to speak. The distribution of dominant C3 plants is pretty much all over the world, but you can see the yellow areas is where it is hot and dry, and the C4 plants have a decided advantage there. Then there are cam plants. The examples of cam plants are called cacti, orchids, and pineapples. You've all seen those. The advantages: these evolved in deserts and other very arid or super dry places where fresh water is limited. These plants can live there. They are super efficient with water. They use a C4 Calvin cycle, and here is your fun fact: their stomata are closed during the day to save water, and they only open the stomata at night, which means they can only bring in CO2 at night for the time that the sun is not out. And your trade-off is that your plants don't grow as fast. Your Calvin cycle is only going to occur during the day because it's tied to all the energy of ATP and NADPH from the light-dependent reactions. Some common cam plants include the jade plant, pineapple, Spanish moss, cacti, various agave species, and about half of all orchid species. We've compiled this for a nice table for you, comparing the C3 plants. Example, most plants and all the trees. Where do you find C3 plants? All over the earth. It's energy efficient, but the trade-off is they don't survive well in not hot or dry places, and it's about 85% of all plants. Your C4, the examples are corn, sugarcane, and crabgrass. Where did they evolve? Hot, dry places. The advantage: they are fast. The trade-off: it costs them a lot of energy. So the fun fact is that the only time they get a real advantage is in these hot, dry places where the C3 plants don't work. Cam is a particular type of C4 plant that includes cactus, pineapple, orchids. Where are you going to find them? Deserts and really dry places. They have the highest water efficiency of all plants, but their trade-off is they can't grow fast at all. They are very slow growers. And their fun fact: the stomata are only open at night. Then there is the C2. C2 that I threw in on this table for you. All plants can do this, but they don't want to. You want to avoid C2. It's called photorespiration. It's more likely to occur if you have low carbon dioxide, high oxygen, and very high temps. There is no advantage. It's wasteful. None. No advantage to C2. In fact, the trade-off is it does the exact opposite of what the plant wants. It burns ATP to get rid of CO2, and the whole point of the Calvin cycle is to bring in CO2. Here's your fun fact: plants evolve C4 and CAM to avoid the C2 pathway. Here is another older version of our table. The best one is the one I just described previously. And then you can study for your quiz, which is going to be about the 4 factors of rates, stomata, C4 plants, cam plants, and that table will be good for you. So study hard, enjoy, and we will see you next time.